Yeah. Alrighty folks, welcome to the show. It's Monday night, which means it's Conquest night. Thankfully I have some things to show you this week, with Hatchet being able to finally deliver the first of the premium boxes. They did tell me last week I received my next delivery, so the next 4 issues after, which, well, this is one of them actually, issues 15, 16, 17 and 18. So I have those, so you know that the show is going to be on for the next 4 weeks without fail, which is fantastic. And they did tell, they were supposed to send premium at the same time, or according to their website it should have been the same time, but it never arrived. And then after a message to them, I was supposed to wait 3 extra days for it to arrive. So my delivery was on a Saturday. Theoretically, that would have to be Saturday, that would be Sunday, Monday or Tuesday, or let's make it fair for them, ignoring Sunday, because that is a non-working day, so that would have been Wednesday, maybe Thursday if you don't want to count the Saturday being a working day, and that's been really generous. I received my premium delivery on the Saturday. That is 7 full days late. Or if you want to be really generous to Hatchet, that's still 5 working days later, or 3. Now, only 2 days, but considering how badly they've been dealing with getting things out on time and getting things delivered, you know, you could argue it's only 2 days, but with one thing on top of the other, it just adds on and adds on. But we do have a premium delivery today, and I will be going through it. And I kind of went straight into the video. So while we have Wayne here as well, thank you very much for joining us. Let me give a quick Patreon shout out to Reese and Wayne, and also to Tim as well, because without them this show wouldn't happen. So don't forget, you can find the link to my Patreon and you can help support the channel in the description below. But other than that, we'll leave that there. And don't forget, if you want to get your pictures just there, don't forget to send them to me on any of my social media, be it on Instagram or Facebook, or perhaps Twitter. Maybe you can do it on Twitter, and they'll get featured on my Instagram story and then posted here, much like Nuts Paint there did, and that's his image there. And my computer will select them at random and just show them out. So there's no, it's not a competition or anything like that. There's no, but it is for a chance to have it pictured there, depending on how long my intro takes. So, and don't forget always, you can use the hashtags, which are on this side. There we are, the hashtags BFOPS Live for regular stuff, and if it's any other Conquest stuff, BFOPS Conquest is just there. So let me have a look at who we got in the chat. So we've got Chris, thank you very much for joining us, Underdog Painting, and we've got Wayne there as well. Premium 4 days later than they predicted. Exactly, it's not on really. 7 days late. And being generous, giving them working days only, that's still 5 days after our magazine arrived. Which, you know, it's not what they said on the website. We're supposed to get it with the delivery. So Wayne's late yet, but he had a trip to Norwich. That's fair enough, thank you very much. There's snap for you and your premium delivery. Hatchet are. Yep, they are indeed. No worries, bud. How goes it? Oh, I suppose you're talking to Wayne. So, I won't butt in on that conversation. So, Conquest Magazine. Now, before we get on with the magazine itself, now usually I will not build a model until the end of the episode. And that kind of gives us an idea to see how long is left of the episode. So, while I have you in the chat, I am currently filming a series of videos which is purely based on building models. Okay, so the nuances, now everybody knows the whole principle of putting some glue on one piece of plastic, pressing it together to another piece of plastic. That's how you put a model together. However, all models come with their own nuances. Perhaps there's some tricky bits to get to, and so on and so forth. So if I build the Conquest models at the end of a Conquest show, I then can't build it in that series of videos. So with you in the chat right now, I would like to ask, would you like me to continue building the Conquest models at the end of the Conquest show, or should I leave that to my new series of videos? Now the series of videos might not be out for quite some time. I need to get ahead of them. So there is a choice. It's up to the viewers. If you want to see the Conquest models built in the show, pop it in the chat, say, yeah, carry on building the Conquest models as they are, and then I will then just continually fill out that series of videos with models that I've bought as and when. Or I'll take the Conquest models, I won't build them on the live show, and it'll be part of the list of videos that I will be creating. Alright, so let me know in the chat, let me know what you think. Other than that, this show will be as usual. We go through the model, go through the contents of issue number 15, and if I have a quick gander at this is obviously the larger screen so that you can see the Conquest. And if I get rid of that there, we have on the desk behind me, we have the premium delivery, and we have the A2 poster, which is what we will get to later on in the show. So Tim, welcome to the show. Thank you very much. New show. You think I should leave the... Do you think I should not build this tonight then and leave it for the new set of videos? It won't necessarily be a new live show. It will be a new video where I will clip it off the sprue and build it. So that's the choice. I either do it tonight on this show, or I do a separate video which will be released as a new release video, which will actually be on a different day than my Friday releases, which are painting videos. So while we think about that, let's go getting on. I can ask again later on in the show. So issue number 15 comes with the Biologist Putrefier, which is a cool looking mini actually. And we look at the picture on the front. I do like this. This is a Death Guard guy, and he's kind of got these sticks of bottles coming out the back, which kind of look like flies' wings, which I think is really cool. And it comes with these 6 dice, which are some of the same white dice that came with issue number 2, was it? Issue number 2, I think these dice came in, with these you know, fairly light dice. I mean, they're well balanced, they do roll well, but they do feel cheap. And I think they come with, you get these with a lot of the Games Workshop box games where, you know, they give you some dice. They're reasonable enough, but I like to bet if you don't own any dice, then they're invaluable. But I would imagine that at some point you would probably want to improve them as quick as you possibly can. But other than that, they're pretty decent, if not just cheap. Okie dokie, so let's have a crack open in this new magazine, and as always, I take away the first page because I don't keep them. I know a lot of people do actually. Unfortunately, I can't actually backtrack on that and then start collecting them, because most of the ones up until now I've actually just thrown away. So, alrighty then. So we've got the Biologist Putrefier, a little bit of explanation as we always do when we get new models or even characters. Have a look. The Hobby Corner, what's up mate? Well, the sky is usually up, but I'm doing fantastically as well, so thank you for joining me today. And there's a few of you saying do the model in a new show, and if that's the consensus, that's probably what I will do. So, the Biologist Putrefier. It's character type, which is cool. I really do want to go into having a look at some of these. There could be another show in the future, or another videos later on in the future. Maybe I'll start going through these sorts of things. Obviously, you know, there's plenty of videos out. This magazine itself has been out for weeks already, so you know, I'm sure you could probably find a YouTube channel out there that reads this out in its entirety, so that's why I don't do it here. On the fence about a new show, we'll let you know. It's not necessarily a new show per se. Building these will be just building the models, and it will be a new playlist where I'll just build a model in a video, and then you can just watch it where I talk about the specific model, rather than cramming it in at the end of this episode of the show, the live show where you talk to me about it. I will just do a video where I clip it off the sprue, I put it together, have a little bit of a talk about how this particular model goes together. It's much more focused. That's what it's all about. So, there we go. A new playlist, yeah. That seems to be the consensus, which we'll do. Rather than try to put this at the end of the video, I'll make a new video. And don't forget, $5 patrons and above will be able to get those videos far earlier than anybody else will. Because I'm going to be getting ahead of myself with those, because I'll start releasing them on a Wednesday. But I build models a lot slower than I paint them, so I want to get well ahead of myself before I start releasing them once a week. So, you know, you patrons will get to see these videos much earlier than anybody else. So, there's that. Alright, so let's move on. We've got the Death Guard Champions number 6. So, if we have a gander at the magazine, don't forget we're on issue number 15 this week, which means in 5 weeks' time, I will do another roundup of what this is starting to look like. You know, the folder. I'll go through the folder and we'll see. I did have a look through myself the other day, and I think I'm actually going to rearrange my play tab. That's after talking to a few people about starting a new set of videos. There's lots of videos coming, which I'll probably have a talk about in my Q&A later on this week, where I will go through the play section one video at a time, one scenario at a time, teaching new players how to play 40k, which is looking interesting. So there'll be some more information on that later on in the week. But yeah, I might rearrange my play section, so I'll have a talk about that when I do the breakdown of the play section. If you get to issue 55 and 56 and you still have them in store, please let me know. Oh, you're talking to Wayne. 55 and 56. That sounds to me like the Rhino. That sounds awesome. Alright, so obviously we have, I didn't show you the back side of that page as well, where we talk about the injector pistol that the biologist Putrefier uses, which is about introducing foul diseases directly into the bloodstream of an enemy, and also used to draw samples from fallen victims, which is cool. And then the hyper blight grenades down at the bottom here, which is the bits that look like a wing on the model. They're these hyper blight grenades, which are kind of cool. Haven't used grenades. I don't tend to use grenades very often. I tend to forget that my models actually carry grenades. It's probably not the most ideal way to play 40k, but I do forget. Usually, you don't tend to see them grenades on the model. And so we come to one of the biggest stories in 40k at all, is the Horus Heresy, where it all began pretty much, with the whole reason why there is a air tags good guys and bad guys. We have the Emperor, we have my main man there, Sanguinius, dead at the feet of the arch traitor Horus himself. So that's kind of cool, introducing the anybody who's new to the hobby to the story of to the Horus Heresy, which is interesting actually, because this is 40k history number 6. Now if we have a look here, and again I'll only quickly go over this because we will do a story breakdown at some point. We've got the 41st millennium here, which obviously is the setting of the entire game, and we have the Empire torn in two in terms of the what's it called, the new campaign that Guilliman started, the Indominus Crusade, which is, you know, further on than the 41st millennium. We have a talk about the warp and the STC systems, and then after we've done all of that, we only now just start talking about the Horus Heresy, which is an interesting way of doing it, in terms of it talks to us about the Horus Heresy now, rather than giving us a brief introduction of it beforehand. And some of you may recognise the artwork on here, which is the Betrayal at Calth. If you have the box game of that, the Betrayal at Calth, I don't think you can get it anymore, but that looks like the artwork from the box, which is kind of cool. And it would be the Rhino 55 and 56. I will give a brief breakdown of the news that came out with over the week actually about this. We'll get to that in just a little bit, about the big leak. In fact, Wayne, as a mod, I believe you have the ability to post links unimpeded. So I don't know if you want to get a link ready for the page that you showed me earlier on in the week. Not the Spanish one, but the one that you tagged me in. I think it was a blog site. I can't remember. But we'll talk about that in a bit. So when I talk about that, you can post a link, I think. So here we go. So we've got the assault on Ajax 40k Battles number 8, which what I was just looking for. And again, we've got something else interesting. You know, I keep mentioning about they keep changing the format about the battles that they've got. This one is just, again, it's just a small little bit of a talk about it, but not. It hasn't got this little box in it saying, you know, what the Imperial forces were like, the Orc forces on this side, sometimes the you know, the Heretics forces or whatever. It's interesting that they don't put that on all of them. But yeah, we have the assault on Ajax here. The invasion of Ultramar led to many battles between the Death Guard and Loyalist Space Marine forces. The Ultramarines and Nova Marines clashed with the Death Guard and Demons of Nurgle on Ajax, quickly learning to be wary of the biologist Putrefier's deadly talents. So obviously, you know, it is tying in with the model that we have this time round, speaking about the biologist Putrefier himself. And that actually might be why they don't give us a specific battle with the forces in mind. They're just focusing directly on this model here. So you saw the Spanish site, which I found very funny because I didn't know the Spanish got the Conquest magazine. Well, that was the it was released this week, I believe, in Spain. So, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So, the biologist Putrefier and how to build him. He's a fairly simple model. I mean, it's only the one sprue. You know, looking for just telling you about the models, and we're still, you know, being careful about our clippers and so on. And it's a fairly simple model. Goes up almost in order, actually. What have we got? We got 1, 2, 3, and then number 7. 4, 5, 6, and 8, which is interesting. And then 9 and 10. So 10 pieces to the model. Like I said, the overall consensus is there will be separate videos about how to paint these. There won't be conquest oriented videos, because it won't just be conquest models that I will build on those videos. But they will be short, you know, 5 to 10 minute videos where I explain how to build a model, or how to build a specific model. You know, I don't go into, you know, place glue and then press and then hold. No, it's more about how do you build this model. And then the next video will be how to build that model, and the nuances that come with each individual model. Is there anything to watch out for each model, and so on. So we can pop these under Death Guard number 7, which is nice and cool. Let's have a look. Death Guard 6, we move on to Death Guard number 7, obviously just before the scenery section of the book. Excuse me, sorry. If I can work out how to post the link. Well, I mean, if you can copy and paste the, you should be able to copy and paste the link from the address bar into the chat, but then obviously if you're using an Android, or if you're using a tablet, it might not work. Which is fair enough. I tell you what, don't worry about it. After the show, I'll edit the description and I can put the link into where it was. Because I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly which website it was that was talking about it, in all honesty. So now we get into how to paint. Let me just find the right section of where this is going to slot into, which is just before the scenery. How to paint the biologist Putrefier. And what do we got? We got, you know, paint the Death Guard green straight onto the model, which still rubs him out the wrong way, even though I know exactly what they're going to say about it. Abaddon Black. You see, the trouble is with giving us these models at the minute. If we have a look through here, put Abaddon Black on some of the bottles and so on. It's got some nice, you know, in-depth pictures, so you can get it from lots of different angles, so you don't miss anything. Painting the Retributor armor, the bright gold, on there to pick out some of these more fascinating details in the needle here. What do we call it? The needle pistol? I can't remember what it's called. Add the lead belcher. So we got lots of metallics going on there. And of course we shade the model with the Agrax shade and the known oil that you currently have. And then picking out things like the Bugman's Glow. Unfortunately, you know what, the thing is, you got these really detailed models coming in now. You know, they're not just troop choices. You know, I mean, we've already had a couple of characters already anyway. But there's some really detail to these models, and you know, these paint schemes are starting to feel a little bit lackluster considering the amount of detail on these models. Now, I know we haven't got all of the paints available to us yet, so but again, tying into the leak, I've had a look at what paints we're going to be getting as well. Yeah, I'm not so sure, but we'll have a look at that. We'll have a chat about that in just a few minutes. We're getting there, honest. I keep talking about just a few minutes and I'm still talking. Alright, so then we get towards the end of the model, into the magazine as always, and we have tutorial for mission number 14. If you notice, we don't have any new rules or any new sections about how to play again. I believe that was the last, I don't know when the last time we had one of those was a tutorial. Let's have a look about a different, adding rules to what we've got. Tutorial number 12 was vehicles, automatic hits with the aggressors, talking about strength and toughness and about the terrain. And then we had morale phase. There we go. So the last time we took was the morale phase. Who was that with? That was with the the other. Oh, what was that model called? I've forgotten what it's called now. Oh, the foul blight spawn. That's the one. We had containers. I can't remember when we had the foul blight spawn, which issue that was. If anybody wants to throw it in the chat, you're more than welcome to. But I think we've had models before that, since then, haven't we? And so yeah, so there's no adding to the amount of rules that we've got so far. Although we have the biological warfare here. Battle introduction. The dull pop of blight grenade explosions echoes through the decks of the Honor of Ultramar, accompanied by the screams of the wounded. A biologist putrefier and a foul blight spawn are conducting foul experiments on fallen ultramarines. Librarian Aaron rallies his men once more, intent on stopping the pair of vile villains before more ultramarines fall victim to their diseases. Using his psychic might to track them, Librarian Aaron and his brothers wait in ambush in the cargo deck. Soon the putrefier and blightspawn enter the deck, seeking new victims to experiment on. With a furious battle cry, Aaron and his men launch their attack. Man, look at how unbalanced that fight is. I mean, that librarian should, in theory, be able to take both of those on by himself. But he's backed up by his auto-hitting aggressors and 3 intercessors as well. Now, if the Death Guard win that, I would be very much surprised. So we're going to go find the back of the book here. Which not quite the back of the book, actually. We do need to come back, replay mission number 13 and the tutorial for issue number 14. And we get some more data sheets. One for the biologist putrefier and one for the foul blight spawn. I didn't realise we didn't actually get any... of course, we only got Plague Marines and Poxwalkers for the mission that you played in the last issue, which is cool. So, Death Guard data sheets, and number 2 is biologist putrefier and the foul blight spawn with a really nice green backed page going on there. That's really cool. Weapons. Tutorial number 17. Here we go. So they're adding more weapons to what we've got now. So we can find our way back to tutorial number 17, which is tutorial mission. I want to find the foul blight spawn was issue number 12. That far back. Wow. Tutorial mission number 1. This is tutorial 16. Here we go. So I want to go back to here. So there are several different types of weapons on your data sheet. In this section, we'll cover each type. of weapon and provide an explanation of the weapon profiles on your data sheets, which is cool. So it's adding, you know, I think so far you've pretty much only been using the weapons, the primary weapons, you know, bolt rifles for the intercessors, the flamers for the aggressors, and so on. But, you know, like I said actually about grenades, a lot of models will carry a grenade, even if it hasn't got it modelled on the model. So it's talking about the multiple weapons on each of the models, and then obviously, as we have here, the Plague Marines. You know, it's written on here about what they have. So just under there. So if I bring that up, I mean you won't be able to read it very well because it won't be in focus. But at the bottom, it tells you that each model has, as a base standard, we're talking a plague knife, a bolt gun, blight grenades, and crack grenades. But then further down you can see that there's far more than that just listed here, because each model also has options to be able to swap and change the weapons that they have available to them. And then a little bit of an introduction to explain what all of these numbers mean. So that's kind of cool. And like I said, I'm going to carry on putting the these rule sections in the book as I have been doing. But recently I've looked back and I think I need to change the way I'm doing it, and I'll explain that. I'll explain why at the end of the week with my Ask Me Anything video, which I'll probably record after being here tonight. You're all set when you're ready. That's fair enough. We'll get down to sticking the replay of issue number 14. And again, we're setting up with just a biologist putrefier and a foul blight spawn. You have an intercessors, the primaris librarian, and the aggressors. 5 battlegrounds, and the only thing that Space Marines have to do is remove the biologist putrefier from play. However, admittedly, the Death Guard only have to remove the primaris librarian. Now, I don't remember, and I'll have to have a look. Do we still have have we had the character rule yet, where you can't actually target a character unless it's the closest model? I don't think we've had that rule just yet. We may have done, I don't know. And so obviously they are building up. I do know that they're building up to move the fight from the Honor of Ultramar into Corvon 2, which we'll see a playmat for that in issue number 18. And issue 22, I believe, thank you Big Mick Danskull for that one, talks about issue number 22 is the first time that we end up planetside with this set of models and missions. And then, obviously, as always, whoops, we have the final page. Subscribe if you dare. I would suggest it, because if you don't subscribe, if nobody bought this thing, then Games Workshop wouldn't do it again. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, but it does mean you have to deal with Hatchet Partworks, and they do seem to be a bit of a lottery. And we'll have a look in the next issue, number 16, which is next week. We get some awful looking models. These are possibly the worst looking Primaris models, and I kind of like the Primaris models, but the Inceptor is possibly one of the worst ones. I really don't like it. We have 2 more intercessors to bring them up. I believe that brings them up to 5 in total. Have we had any more intercessors? I don't know. We haven't, have we? So you get 2 more to bring them up to 5, and we have some Hellblasters as well, which is one model I've never gotten around to buying. And then in 2 weeks' time, we get the second container. Now, of course, you know, I do know that I am a few weeks behind, and issue number 15 is a little bit out of date. And there's still no issue that all 80 will be in the shops. No, that's fair enough. So, let me have a little bit of a chat before we move on to the premium stuff behind me. So yes, I've alluded to the leak that happened earlier on in the week. Now, this was started by the distributor in Spain, where they listed apparently, allegedly, the entire contents of the Hatchet Works Conquest, or the Conquest magazine's run. So from what issue, what you were going to get, what paints, what models, what order, in its entirety. Now, obviously, shortly after that, the Spanish site removed it. They removed the entire list, and the only thing that was left was what you would imagine you would see on the Hatchet Partworks website, only in Spanish and with the Spanish distributor's site. However, recently, just a few, I think it was a day or so later, there were plenty of other rumour sites that have managed to read everything that was written on that site. And if Wayne would like to throw up the link for the rumour site that had it, that he tagged me in at some point. Yes, so they have then copied and pasted pretty much every single issue of Warhammer Conquest and the alleged contents of each of those magazines. Now, of course, they are a rumour site, so they have decided to kind of hedge their bets and say, well, you know, this could only be such and such of, it could only be a rumour, there might not be anything there. There we go, infohammer.com, that's the one. So they do say in that article that there could be the fact that they didn't do it. They did say in there that that might not be true. And the one thing that they did say that was suspect to the validity of that list was that apparently, now I've never seen the model, but the repulsor, the big ultramarine tank, which we know we're going to get, that is spread across 4 issues. It's the penultimate set of models we're going to get, just before they round it off with allegedly the big terrain set of the Mechanicus terrain. Now, they do say allegedly, it does seem a little bit suspect that because that particular model comes on 3 sprues and it's spread over 4 magazines. But having said that, we also have had models that have a librarian that had 2 sprues, and that was in one issue, of course, because it's only a small one. But we have had issues with no models in them at all. And I do believe we've had some that don't even have paints. Have we had any? I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But I think we have watched. We have had some magazines that came with no models and no paint. I think. I'm not sure. It could just be a lore heavy magazine somewhere in that repulsor range. There could be a mission heavy kind of magazine. So I would suggest follow the link to fohammer.com, and if you want to find out what we may or may not be getting in the entire run of the Conquest magazine. Obviously, I will continue to do my show every week, showing you what you get. I mean, I am behind the shops, so what if the shops continue to sell it, I will be permanently behind, so you'll already know what is guaranteed to be in the issue. But I'll continue my show as I am doing, and but if you want to see what's coming up, feel free to throw down, and like Tim says, like Tim has been doing in the past, he will just pick and choose which models he wants to get, and grabs the magazines that he wants, so you can possibly have a look to see what we're getting in the future. So, and I do believe that issue 20 was out this week. Is it out tomorrow? Or is it 21 that's out tomorrow? So as far as I'm aware, we already know guaranteed what's happening up until at least 22, I believe. So, and to be honest, it's been on point. That website is on point for the first 22 issues, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't carry on that way. So that's that. So there we go. Now I am now going to go behind me, and we are going to have a look to see what the other things that we managed to get. We have the issue. We have the box here of the premium subscription, and we also have the gift that came as a subscriber gift. Now, hopefully, I may have to fiddle around with settings on the 20 was last week, 21 is tomorrow and Wednesday. There we go. So yeah, and I'm pretty sure we already know. So we do know what's happening up until at least 22, because the issues have, you know, it's written on the back of issue number 20, what's coming up for the next 2 issues. So we do know what's happening up until at least 22 anyway. So what I want to do is I do want to try and fiddle around with this a little bit, try and lighten that up a bit, because it's not looking fantastic. I may have to fiddle around with the focus while I'm at it, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm not really prepared for this this angle, to be honest. So before we get on with the premium subscription, why don't we just take a quick look at the A2 poster that we get, because there is a little bit of interesting thing. Now obviously I have looked at this. Now I have a look at everything as it comes through the door, and I kind of like this. Now this obviously is a way for anybody who's new to the hobby to have a look and see if they want to paint their ultramarines in slightly different colours. And if I just spend a few moments pulling this out, which is fantastic. So we have a whole host of pictures of Space Marine chapters. Now every single one of these, let me just pick up this camera. I do apologise if this makes any of you seasick. I want to grab this and see if we can have a look at what we have in. Yeah, let's have a look at this. There we go. There we are. An absolute ton of Space Marine chapters, which is absolutely fantastic. Every single one of them is a loyal faction, which, as some of you may have noticed, makes that very interesting. Now every single one of these pictures is a Primaris Marine, so all of them are Primaris, so they're the new models. And it was well established in the law that heretic Astartes do not have access to Primaris Marines, which I don't know how long it will be before they are, because it'll probably happen at some point, or at least something similar. But this interests me, because obviously now in a business sense, of course, Games Workshop deliberately leave holes in the law that allows you to create your own, create your own chapter. When these are your plastic models, you can paint them however you want, you can play them however you want. These are just guidelines. There are many of the loyal chapters, there are many first founding on here. We have the Blood Angels, for argument's sake. We have, if we have a quick look through, see if I can find some reasonably quickly, we have the Salamanders here. We have the Imperial Fists over here, which is, they're first founding legions. I mean, they were the original 20 legions that the Emperor created, 2 of which were expunged from all existence. Again, leaving room for, if you so chose, to create your own Space Marine chapter, where you could just fill out the blanks of one of those missing Primarchs, whether you want it to be loyal or heretical. It leaves holes. However, the reason why I'm saying all that, though, is it does make this very, very interesting, because these are supposed to be loyal. All of the Primaris are loyal. That's the whole point. However, have one of the Primaris Marine legions in GW's little fluff factory, just to allow for a little bit of a hole for you to fill in. Has one of them turned heretical? It's interesting, to say the least. I do like that. But it's nice. It's an A2 poster. It's fantastic. It's got plenty of colour schemes for you to choose from. I believe, if I can find them reasonably quickly, that we have the Silver Templars, which are here. There they are. Silver Templars on here, which I have heard through the grapevine are a Space Marine chapter of purely Primaris Marines that were created fluff-wise for Conquest by itself. You know, they created it because they wanted a Primaris chapter for Conquest. So yeah, there's plenty of colours on there. You can see that there's all sorts of colours, colour schemes, logos, and all sorts of things should you want to try something other than the established lore. I mean, I'm sure pretty much most of those have lore attached to them from Games Workshop, which you may find absolutely fascinating to have a look at the the wiki, to read up on things. Think you're meant to draw horns on it and paint it black. What's that? The classified one. So I love this thing. This is absolutely fantastic. This will go up on the wall somewhere, I think, relatively soon. We'll see what happens about that. So I love this. This is fantastic. So for now, we're going to get rid of this. That was the subscriber gift for issues number 15, 16, 17 and 18. You get it free just for being a subscriber. Now let me just pop that away in the little holder, and we can come in with the Conquest premium delivery. Now, the Mystery Marine, yeah, draw horns on it and paint it black. Now, as a Blood Angel player, anything that's black is supposed to be kept away from anyway, because it'll probably kill you. So, the Conquest premium subscription. So it came in a pizza box. And this was a box that came flat packed in it. And to be honest with you, now Wayne knows exactly what I'm going to say here, because we did have a bit of a discussion about this at the weekend. It's a very flimsy, it's very, very thin, simple cardstock that comes folded flat. It's, yeah, we're not 100% sure what you're supposed to do with this box exactly. But it's a very flimsy kind of cardboard box, which I don't find that appealing, to be honest. Inside we have some tokens, Ultramarines. Look at that. Ultramarine tokens, lovely little bookkeeping aid, really. It gives you, you have some wound counters, so how many wounds that your model has left, which is quite handy, or how many wounds it has on it, depends on which way you want to go. Most people would count down. Just to let you know, most gaming etiquette is one counts down your wounds rather than counting up. It's just the way that most people play the game. It's not to say you have to do it. It's just I have seen during a game that somebody was doing it the other way. Somebody was counting how many wounds the model had received. And it did cause a bit of confusion when there was a 1 on a dice. One usually uses dice, and there was a 1 next to a character model, and the opponent decided to pretty much ignore the model because they just assumed that it was only on 1 wound remaining, or I think it was on a vehicle, which would have meant that it was suffering. I don't think we have any of those rules just yet, but as most vehicles lose wounds, they start misbehaving, and so there was a little bit of confusion that there was a 1 next to this vehicle, which was for the controlling player just to say that it had received 1 wound. But most people do it the other way around, where that 1 would have mean that that vehicle was on its last legs. Just a little side note there. But yeah, we have some wound tokens. We have some other little bookkeeping advices. We have some objective markers, which is nice. And we have some few, what do we call them? Tokens to determine what you've done. You've charged, or you've advanced, fallen back, or you need to take a morale test, or you've lost a morale, or whatever it is. They're quite handy devices. The problem with this, and I do say this as a light problem because these tokens are quite handy, is they're double-sided. Which means for now, if you need to use all of these tokens on one side, the other player doesn't have any. Whoops. I'm not really sure that I need double-sided tokens. I mean, I would much prefer them to be the same size. That's just me. I mean, they're in nice thick cardstock, so they're nice and solid. As you can see, I haven't taken them out, but I can push them out of here. And whoops, they're nice thick tokens here. They're going to take a beating. They're not going to bend very easily. I mean, you can bend them. They are only cardboard. But it's not going to happen very easily, and so they are nice tokens, but I'm not 100% sold on them. Then we have the Conquest dice, which I have used. They are nice. They're big and red and quite chunky. One thing that they haven't done is what GW tend to do, is the one pip is a pip, and the logo that they've put on the dice is the Warhammer Conquest logo. Which is nice. GW tend to put a logo on both. One of them would be a skull and one would be a logo, which could lead to a bit of confusion if you choose that your skull is a 1 and your chapter logo is a 6, and the next player to come along chooses that the chapter logo is a 1 and the skull is a 6. It can lead to a bit of confusion. So it's nice that the logo is on the 6. Leaves no confusion about the 1. As you see, they show up quite nicely on the camera, so you might start seeing these in some games in the future. It's nice and heavy. They do roll well. I used them in Kill Team the other day, and I got lots of logos showing, which was unfortunate for my opponent, but it was quite nice. I do like these dice. They're quite big and chunky. I do prefer my dice to be a little bit smaller, but that's a personal preference. But on the whole, I think there's some good quality dice. Moving on, we have a gaming mat. Now this is made of some decently sized card. Let's have a look at the token. It's around about the same thickness as the gaming token. If we just unfold this a little bit, if I can figure out how to do it. The gaming token actually is a little bit thicker. I think Wayne mentioned that to me the other day. It is a little bit thicker, but if we open this out properly, there we are. Now I was meant to, before the beginning of the show, actually find the mat from issue number 1 or number 2, whichever. Issue number 1 I think it was. To actually give you a visual show, but it's about the same sort of size-ish as the first gaming mat that we got in the magazine. I want to say I've got it tucked away in a drawer just by the computer here, but I can't guarantee that I've got it handy, which is a shame because I would like to get a visual on the screen for it. But it's around about the same size. There's not much to it, I do believe. And it is double-sided. So on this side you have just here is obviously it looks like a landing bay with the Ultramarine logo right smack in the middle of it. There's no terrain marked on here. It's nice and smooth, nice and flat. And if we flip it over, we have something that we're much more similar, much more used to seeing in Conquest. If I bring this over, the lights are not being kind, but we have some containers marked out here, and we have a Death Guard deployment zone just here, and the Ultramarine deployment zone just over here. So, as I said, though, it's a nice quality mat. It does look reasonably good. It's nice and sturdy. Whoops. Let me see if I can move that. There we go. You may see this make an appearance at some time in the future, where we go through how to play. So, and finally, so we have the mat, the tokens, the dice, the really thin box, which does have some nice pictures on it, I'll grant you. However, I think we've spent about £30 on this box. £1.50 per episode since issue number 2, I believe. It's not been cheap, but I think the saving grace of this box is these right here, which are nice. You see the size of my hands. Nice, big, easy to read data cards for every single model that we've received so far. We have the Intercessors, the Reavers, Lieutenant Calcius himself, the Primaris Librarian, the Aggressor Squad, Hellblaster Squad, which we haven't received yet, and Inceptor Squad, which we haven't received yet. And we have the Blightlord Terminators, which are not coming until issue number 22, I think. Lord of Contagion, which I don't think we've had one of those yet. Not unless Lord Felthius is one of them. Is a Lord of Contagion, I'm not sure. Biologist Putrefier, Foul Blightspawn, the Mephitic Blighthauler, Poxwalkers, and Plague Marines. So we have some really nice looking data cards we have, and they are full 40k rules on here, I believe. We have all the keywords, the faction keywords, the models, as well as the different options for each model, the weapons that they can take, and all of the special rules for all of the models. And as Wayne says, it is only just the saving grace there, and I would agree with you, because we could put a value to all of this stuff. Now, 6 dice is difficult to quantify because GW tend to sell them in at least packs of 10, but there'll be a tenner a piece, a tenner for a pack of 10. Knock a couple of quid off for only being 6, maybe 8 quid or so. The tokens themselves, again, they're not really sold in any kind of value, so it's difficult to put a value to it, but maybe with the way GW prices things, you may be able to get a couple of quid on it. They are handy things. The board itself, again, difficult to quantify, but I think GW will probably put a tenner on that. The box is virtually worthless. I mean, you can make one of those things out of paper if you really wanted to. Just get a cardboard box. But it's these. These are invaluable, not only because I don't know if you can get them anywhere else, but also because in the tabletop you don't have to go flicking through a codex to try and find your models. You have got those cards sitting right there for you to have a look at. So there we are. Oh, let me sit down here and pop that just there. So what do we think? We've had issue number 15. It is a massive box for what's in it. It is. In fact, actually, this is something that we were thinking about, is that we're not really sure what the box is for. The cardboard playmat doesn't fill the bottom of the box. Now, you don't want it to, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get your fingers down it to pull it out. But for the size, now obviously, can you see this? Let me just bring this across. For the size of it, you know, if I put that in the front, just there, see all of that gap there is quite a lot of space for that to be put in there. Whoops, I picked up one of the cards while I was at it. If I put that in there, yeah, there's a lot of gap in there. You know, there's quite the gap. And, you know, a handful of dice, these token things, and these cards. Now, the other thing as well that I wanted to show you is that that Spanish site. Now, I did have a look through that Spanish site as quickly as I could. My computer translated it for me, and the premium boxes, I think it was on the Spanish site that it said it, that the premium subscription is going to be 4 boxes of identical contents, with one caveat, is that the board that we're going to get is going to be of a different kill zone. It's going to have different terrain on it, printed on it. And of course we don't have the same cards. We'll have different data cards. Now there is some supporting evidence to that, is that this Conquest dice for Warzone 1. So that leads me to speculate. Now this is pure speculation here, and I should really have a little thing on the screen to just say this, the following is, the opinions of one person and doesn't reflect Hatchet Partworks Limited and all its associated yada yada yada. What I suggest, what I'm suspecting, is that the dice are going to be different colours. We may get red, blue, green and yellow ones, because that's the way that the dividers are. That's the colour palette that Conquest has got. I have a suspicion that the dice are going to be different colours. I have a suspicion that theoretically the war zones were going to stick together and you could create one big map. I'll reserve judgment for that, because so far that looks like it's an aircraft cargo bay. And also more of these boxes. I'm really not sure what am I going to get that's going to fill this box. And if they're expecting people to be storing their models in a box like that, they need to supply foam, because I'm not going to be putting my models in that box. But of course this is pure speculation. I have no idea what they had in mind for the boxes themselves, and I am only speculating what's going to be coming in the future. I believe it was that Spanish site that just basically said that all 4 boxes were going to have the same contents. The difference being that it was going to have a different theme for each box. All the hassle from Hatchet will fill it. yeah, it will. You see, you don't want to be putting the Conquest folders inside it. They wouldn't fit anyway. I've just had a quick look. The folder won't fit inside it in any orientation, so they didn't expect you to put the folder in, which obviously you wouldn't. You'd put them on a shelf. Yeah, the box itself is bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. The contents of the box are, I wouldn't want to say worthless, and the reason why I say that is that those data cards are an invaluable tool. The tokens are handy, and the dice are of reasonable quality. And so's the board. In all fairness, it might be a bit small, but it's of a reasonable quality. So I wouldn't say, and to be honest with you, I think I'm doing this now more. This section is going to be more of about, if any of these Spanish subscribers or European subscribers, I imagine it's not just going to be Spain. It's going to start spreading around the world. If anybody can listen to English or put closed captions, I don't know how that works, whether they want to go in for the premium, basically. And I wouldn't say it was a waste of money. I think the premium subscription is barely worth it. You're just about getting your money's worth, but only barely. And I think it would depend on what the next box is whether the next box is worth it. So I think we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, that's issue number 50. That's the premium delivery and the free poster that we received as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments now before we end the show. We managed to get an hour out of this one, which is fantastic. Like I said, the general consensus is that you want to see me do individual videos for these guys, which is perfectly fine. That's I plan on doing an entire series of as many different models as I possibly can. When I start releasing them, you'll find them in a playlist, which is just building models. That's all it's going to be about. No painting, no nothing like that. It's just going to be building a model. Not even priming it, it's just building it. So you'll find that in that playlist when they start getting released. If you're a $5 Patreon or more, you'll be able to see that video as soon as it's finished. There is already one in there, which was about building a Genestealer Patriarch, a Genestealer Cult Patriarch. That is the first how to build model already up there on Patreon for Patreons to see. Let's have a look. Wayne says a box pointless. I agree. A dice okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Tokens are cool. Yeah, I agree. You know, they're handy, but you know, not necessary. The playmat is meal. Is that? Did you mean meal? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But it's and data cards the best bit. Absolutely, 100% agree with you. I bet some premium subscribers will change their subscription. Quite possibly. Yeah, it's quite possible that they will. Of course, as a channel with you followers, I will keep mine as it is, so don't worry about it. No matter how much hassle, in fact, actually, I want to get this said, actually. No matter how much hassle that Hatchet put me through, I will maintain every issue. I do have the sneaky little art book that they got most of the subscribers. I imagine most subscribers have opted out of it. I haven't. I'm still gonna buy it. It's gonna cost me a bit, but I'm gonna buy it and we'll have a look through it, see what the fuss is about. Now, admittedly, it's not really going to help anybody who is already a subscriber, but hopefully our continental friends and hopefully the rest of the world will be able to see what that book is all about and choose whether they want to go in for it when it arrives. So I do apologise that a lot of you guys that watch this, or certainly in the UK, it's a bit late for me to show you it, but I'll still do it. Yeah, that reaction you did about the mat is what I meant. Nah. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, that's about right. So yeah, I mean, I will get every episode, every magazine. I'll get every gift. I do have the premium subscription. I will get all 4 premium deliveries, whether they're worth it or not. Which is why I do ask. I mean, I come straight out of the gate with a Patreon account. Yeah, that's why I do ask for the support, because it helps just cover some of these costs that, quite frankly, are not worth it. But at least you guys get to see it. I thought you meant it was a table mat. Well, it's a board. It's a game board. Game mat, table board. Yeah, whatever, whichever idiom you wish to use. So there we go. Anything else? Is there anything else you want to ask about this delivery, about this magazine, or anything other than that? I do have my Ask Me Anything coming on at the end of the week. Like I said, I'll probably end up recording that at some point, maybe tonight, maybe in the next couple of days. I'll record that. Patreons, as always, the video itself I will probably put under, I think YouTube do this thing where I can host it as a premiere, so I'll probably be in the chat if that's how that works. I'm going to have a look at premiering the Ask Me Anything at the end of every month. It'll be at the, on the last Friday of every month. I'll see if I can figure that one out. But as always, Patreons will get to see that video. Can I do that? If I can I show you Patreons that early and still premiere it? I don't think I can, actually. We'll see. I'll see how I do it. But it will be on Friday at 6:30. As always, I will that's when I release all of my non-live videos. So that's what it'll be. My next live show will be on Thursday, as always, where we will continue on with her Canoness. I don't know what her title is. Is it Her Majesty? It's not Her Majesty for sure, but her Ladyship perhaps. The Canoness will carry on with her on Thursday night as usual. So I think that pretty much wraps up the show. So thank you to Tim, Wayne, Chris, Underdog, you popped in at one point, Hobby Corner, thank you very much. Don't forget to check out the links in the description below, and when I end here I'll probably put them in the chat as well. And I'll say thank you all for coming along today, thank you for watching this one, and I'll catch you in the next one, alright? Ta-ra.